and welcome to another evening of Hard Copy coming to you from our studios in Abuja. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. In the last couple of weeks on this program, we have focused largely on security in the country, and for very good reason too. A look at the stories in the news today, not least the disturbing kidnap of yet another batch of students, this time from a federal tertiary institution, leaves a very sour taste in the mouth. Fortunately, 180 of them are said to have been rescued. However, a significant number, about 30 of them, remain unaccounted for. It's a disturbing development, and we'll certainly have updates for you on the news at 10 tonight. For this moment, we focus on another matter which seems to be the twin of security, which we often take for granted: safety. At the beginning of this year, the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, generated controversy when he donated 500 million naira to the Sokoto state government after the central market in Sokoto got burnt, and with it, the livelihoods of hundreds of traders. The fire in the Sokoto market is one of the many market fires which has impoverished many traders and attendant stakeholders in our markets. Although it's difficult to come by a general statistics as a countrywide statistics, this year alone has seen more than 10 major market fires across the country. As a result, the House of Representatives moved a motion asking the federal government, as a matter of urgency, to enforce installation of fire alerting systems in all buildings across Nigeria, including the Federal Capital Territory. They said the enforcement should be across board, involving commercial buildings, private and public buildings as well. Tonight on Hard Copy, I have with me Honorable Henry Wanwuba, who moved the motion, and Assistant Controller Timve Jeremiah, who's the Head of Public Relations at the FCT Fire Service. Gentlemen, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you.
Well, just before I asked you why you moved that motion, because, some people say that there are laws, enacted to solve that problem already. I'd like to get your thoughts on the abductions which happened today in Kaduna.
Thank you very much, Maokwe. Well, my thoughts as a Nigerian, obviously, that is connected to what is happening in the country today, is that I really think it's unfortunate when there's absolutely no confidence in the security architecture. I remember when the service chiefs were changed, I went on Twitter and I said, I hope that with the change in the leadership of the security architecture in this country, that is going to translate down to progress being made in terms of fighting insurgency, kidnapping, and all of that. If you recall that when kidnapping came in this country, it was a case where the elites were being kidnapped. But today, what we have is that the commoners are being kidnapped in mass. And then, unfortunately, ransoms are being paid. And so we somehow have gone from a reversal. We've actually gone to a reversal of the situation in terms of kidnapping. I really thank God that some of them have been found. It is unfortunate and disheartening. If you've ever had this kidnap experience, which I have had, it's something that just leaves you unnerved. You cannot sleep, you cannot focus until you recover your loved ones. And in some cases, it's been bad. As a Nigerian, I'm saddened by this. The loss of confidence in terms of security in this country, whether you're on the road or you're just, you can be abducted at any time. It's unfortunate. I think for us as a country, we need to, obviously what the government can do for security, but activate what I call the fourth tier of government, which is the office of the citizen. For security perspective, we really need to move to a mode where we can use intelligence, we can use community-type policing, we can use exchange of information to protect ourselves. Really, it's not easy to take people in mass and then recover them in mass, and everything just happens in the open, not at night, sometimes in the daytime. It leaves questions to be asked. So we need to activate that fourth mode where the office of the citizen is activated and is involved in protecting themselves, because if the government of the day has failed in protection of lives, property, and what have you, then we really have to take this issue of security personal. At the end of the day, prevention, they say, is better than cure.
Well, prevention is also, part of what we're talking about tonight, because even though, I cited just only 10, I could only find 10 while searching tonight, looking for major market fires. I do know that statistics that we have from the FCT alone shows that there has been at least 149 fire calls. They've had, 149 fire calls already for the FCT alone. They say they've been able to save 17 lives, and sadly they've lost 10 to fires. And you have to ask the question, what we're doing proactively to, on the question of safety. What made you move that motion?
Exactly, the statistics. I mean, we cannot continue living a normal life and expecting things to be different. The truth of the matter is that we have lost 10 lives between January to February alone in the FCT on fire. And in terms of properties, we've lost over $500 million. And in last year, it was the same. The statistics are so... The statistics from the Federal Fire Service in 2018 said that Nigeria in 4 years lost 5 trillion naira to fire incidents. So this is an alarming data. This statistics alone makes one uncomfortable because with fire, it could happen at any time, anywhere, and there is absolutely no connection in terms of the alerting systems to empower the fire services to respond on time. So what prompted this was the data that we got in Parliament, and of course, we took that resolution hoping that we can invoke this kind of conversation with the fire service and hopefully get to the state where enforcement can be done. Right now, we are concerned that there's a major gap in terms of enforcement. Of course, the law for fire, the Fire Service Act, is very, very old. We need to repeal and reenact, and we believe that we can work together to come up with a draft, either to amend or to repeal and reenact that law to bring it in line with modern day in terms of firefighting. We also think that the Federal Fire Service, and indeed all the state fire services, need to also upgrade in terms of what they do, in terms of responses. They can't just be sitting ducks. They can't just be waiting for calls. There must be systems leveraging on technology that can trigger alerts so that we don't lose properties, we don't lose lives. What we're trying to do is essentially move in terms of fire from reaction to prevention. And I think that if we can use legislation as an engine room to innovate on policy, especially with fire, we can get our fire service departments to be in line with modern day reality in terms of firefighting.
Some people will say it should largely deal more with advocacy because you just talked about a federal fire service. You cannot have, well, we have a federal fire service and they also have, we've seen branches on all the 36 states, but we also have state fire services. And, you cannot legislate for state governments. But let me come to you, sir. I mean, this is the statistics I'm seeing for January to December 2020. And so far, you say in 2020, a lot of people were at home in 2020. There was a lockdown, but you got 507 fire calls. For rescues, you got 49, I think. So you do fire calls, you also do rescue calls, I believe. First and foremost, when I saw this, the first question that came to my mind is, on what number are people calling you? Because I don't know if there was a fire today. I'm just asking. I mean, how do people reach you? Does somebody know somebody who knows somebody to get you, or there's a national number, there's a number which they can reach you?
There are instances like that. And I'm so much impressed by the Honorable. I think he's so vast in the issue of fire so much that if I'm allowed, I would have just given him a uniform. But that is on a lighter mood. Now, I'm going by the statistics. Let me pick up from the point of the statistics in 2020. There was a lockdown, but there was a lot of activities of cooking going around. You remember the children were around. And in most instances, some of the parents were not even doing the kind of monitoring that they're supposed to monitor those children. And then any child that just go to the kitchen or do whatever you want to do, some, even in the course of watching the televisions, they leave it on and all of those stuffs, which boils basically on carelessness. And then we keep receiving calls every day. Now, how do we receive calls? Now, in most cases, especially in the FCT, I'll be speaking particularly in the case of FCT, there are instances where people have to run to our stations to lodge a complaint that is a fire. And of course, that fire will not wait for you. That is what we call running course. Or somebody knows somebody in fire service, as you rightly say. It's a chain of things. Actually, in the FCT, we have up to 15 stations. I actually came with some of our flyers.
But that's very disturbing.
Yeah.
I mean, if the FCT,
Yeah.
the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria, somebody has to know somebody who knows somebody to get, your service, it is disturbing. You don't agree?
I agree. But like you mentioned the issue of advocacy. Our attitude, I don't know why. We've been carrying out campaigns, excuse me, we've been carrying out campaigns. You go to a place, some people just give a kind of a cold attitude as if it doesn't matter. I've been involved in sensitization in most of the places. I remember that I came even to this studio 2 years ago, in 2018, to come and do a sensitization here. And I'm very glad when I came in, the young man, somebody accosted me, said, you came and gave us a training here. But there are some organizations you go, maybe they just put the security men, and nobody cares. Even when you are giving them numbers, nobody is interested.
Yeah, but what kind of
And
numbers?
so disturbing is that.
Are you giving them long 11 GSM numbers or you're giving them short codes?
Agreed, long GSM number, but we have also a short code, 112. But it boils down to our attitude.
That's a national number.
Yeah.
That's emergency.
Yeah, that's emergency.
Yeah.
Emergency national number.
112, the toll-free number. Now, it is also resident. All kinds of emergencies are there. So as soon as you put a call to that number, they will turn out which of the agencies that are supposed to respond to such an emergency. It was NCC that gave that number through FEMA and all of that. But our number that we've been using, there was a time we approached NCC to give us a 3-digit number. They said they can't give a 3-digit number to a state. It has to be only a national number. So if we're working towards that they must, like if you see the road safety, they have to carve it out from the same 112. Road safety have 122. Okay, so they were now trying to look at how they can now impute fire service, especially the FCT fire service, into one of those 3-digit codes. And that thing has been on until even the time that our former director left. The new one just came in, and they will want to still resuscitate that. So those are chains of events and how calls come in.
It's a very disturbing one there for you, Honorable.
Yes.
When you look at just how long it's taken, for instance, to get an emergency short code.
For us, what we think is that there needs to be a lot of updates and upgrade in terms of fire service and firefighting and provision of all of these services in the country. We think also that the laws are so old to cater to the emerging demographics in Nigeria in terms of the infrastructure needed, the outlay to combat some of these things. It's good. We're going to get there, but obviously we need to work together. Enforcement, forget all the things that are the gaps. With the current situation in Nigeria today, enforcement is key. You cannot have a market with crowds, perhaps with perishable goods, and then there's absolutely no enforcement. In modern climes, even when you start the construction, fire is a major consideration. If you come to the National Assembly, for instance, we have fire sprinklers, we have fire doors that segment the building so that they can be activated, so that fire can be contained if we have. So that's what we're talking about. And it's not about the fire service of the FCT or the Federal Fire Service. It's about what needs to be done to bring the entire service up to speed. I'll give you an example. The Infrastructure Regulatory Commission in 2018 or so called for memoranda for people to the fire database. There's a database that you have to provide that service. It's technology driven. Now, you can as well in the fire service use partnerships. You cannot do everything when you don't have the numbers and you don't have some of the technology. You can call for memoranda for partnership that will give you alerts, just like security. If there's a breakdown now, there are companies in the FCT that you can call and they'll give you rapid response. Similar thing can be done while we bring everything up to speed and we can all be at par when it comes to fire service. Right now, enforcement is a gap, and it's leading to tremendous loss of lives. You've read the data. 10 lives lost.
Just quickly, what's the biggest cause of fire in the FCT?
Basically, in the FCT, what we look at the cause of fire is negligence, and particularly electricity. So when you are using electricity and then you are not managing it very well. So we look at it as just negligence. Yeah. But electricity is the precursor of most of the fires that we witness in the FCT.
Well, when you look at how erratic power supply is across the country, especially and in this heat, I'm sure a lot of Nigerians have been experiencing, very serious heat in recent times. And then when you look at the fact that there's been panic to buy petrol in recent times, it would seem that you already have a mix right there for what will come. But there ought to be some enforcement. We'll have to take a break now. When we come back, we'll say, what will it take to improve enforcement of safety regulations? Because they do exist across the country. In a moment, please stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. Honorable Henry Wanwuba and Assistant Controller Timve Jeremiah, who's the Head of Public Relations at the FCT Fire Service, are our guests tonight. And we're talking about curbing fires in the country. Well, beg your pardon, Assistant Controller, you did say that electricity is the biggest cause. Negligence and electricity fires are the biggest cause of fires here in the FCT. What has been the attitude? I mean, in terms of when you try to talk to people about it, you say you go around to do advocacy. What are the attitudes of people to, how receptive have they been to you trying to be proactive about, being vigilant on what could start a fire, say in their homes or offices or even marketplaces?
If I'm to wait on a scare, I would say it's below 30%. Because like I said, you go to an organization, this is a training that is supposed to benefit everybody. And the message we used to tell the public is, even if it is not even in your office, you can take this message home. But you discover that maybe they put some security men, and then maybe the so-called business organ, you don't see anybody. And that was what also informed our decision. As at late last year, early 2019 rather, we decided to go to the schools. And we've written to UBEP. We've started with the Universal Basic Education, the junior secondary schools. They've given us approval because we came into partnership with them. And then we kept, we kept sensitizing them and then establishing safety clubs in the schools. Just last week, we were also at the Secondary Education Board to carry the same advocacy. So
you think that it should be the children right now who should have that?
Because I think most of them, they are now even in a better position to talk even to their parents.
Are you? It would seem that, I mean, from what you're saying, it seems like you're powerless. Like if an organization, for instance, is not keeping to safety rules, or building regulations are not following what they ought to do in terms of safety, it does look like you don't have any powers in that regard.
There's actually an enforcement, but even if you look at the manpower, we cannot do all within a space of time. Because like in the FCT, we have less than 1,000 personnel. And you can imagine the entire city. And
you have a very big real estate market in the FCT.
Everywhere. So, even
one would think that should be high on the priority list.
Now, we have an enforcement unit, but there's a limit at which these people can go. Because this less than 1,000 personnel that you now have to divide them. Those are in operation, those are into fire prevention and sensitization, those are in force and code enforcement and all of that. So it now brings down the number of personnel that you have that can now go around the entire city. So we now have to look at others. Now, like what the Honorable says, we actually need a legal instrument. But we have what we call the National Fire Safety Code, which has actually empowered us. But when you look at even the personnel, who does this? You understand? So those are some lapses that we have that we cannot go around. Now, if we cannot go around at the same time, let's look at other options, like those safety clubs. Road safety, they are doing the same thing. The safety clubs. At least let's sensitize also these children, take those messages down, and then we'll be.
Do you think you should synergize, since you're talking safety of a different kind road safety is talking safety of a different kind. Do you think?
No, I only gave an instance of the road safety, the fire,
yes, but you're
the
all
road safety
along
marshals.
the safety line.
Yeah.
I mean, you're all doing safety, so to
Yeah.
speak. On the line, everything is trying to keep people safe.
Okay.
Road safety is about safety on the roads. Fire is about keeping people safe from fires. Do you think that there's any point where you can synergize and say, you know what, let's combine efforts here so that we can achieve some more?
Okay.
You see any room for collaboration there?
There is room for collaboration. When we're,
Are you exploring it?
When we've been going to parks, we normally go along with them. We've been doing sensitization also in the motor parks. In the 2018, I can remember vividly. We went to Jabi Park, we went to Karo Park, and 1 or 2 parks like that.
Any improvement? Are you able to measure whether or not your advocacy is having any impact whatsoever?
There was, because most of the drivers, you see them with their extinguishers. Maybe they just buy it on the road. They don't even know how to operate it. But with that, you can even meet 1 or 2 of them that they can now even use those extinguishers if they have any fire challenge on the road. So there was an improvement. Yeah.
Well, Honorable, I do know that about 2 weeks ago, the federal government did approve, I think, of 1.1 billion naira. So a really humongous amount for the federal fire service to improve the federal fire service. I know that the Minister for Internal Affairs or Interior. Rauf Aregbesola was the one who made that announcement. Is the problem about capacity or is it about our laws?
Okay.
Because when you have a situation whereby it would seem that they don't have enough manpower to be able to enforce rules, so to speak, and yet we have a humongous amount being approved for just the Federal Fire Service, which some people will say, well, since the states are going to benefit, it's a good thing. But if it's not properly utilized or if the laws are weak, what's going to happen would the money be effectively spent?
There's quite a lot of conversations on the table in terms of this. I think sometimes it's not the funding, because even with the current data, we need to be able to say we need to walk back these numbers. And for me, we need to start with, because this whole topic has to do with all sectors, all parameters are on board. If you're talking about, let's say, industry-specific fires, like within the oil and gas sector, where you can have an explosion, maybe in a pipeline, and it can lead to, or you have a tanker that falls on the street and causes fire and all of it. So a fire can start in the middle of the night. That's how basic I'd like us to bring our mind to. What do we have today that can trigger an alert so that there can be response? If a fire starts in a market, it usually starts at a small fire, not a very large fire. Must we use a phone call system where we don't even have the short code like you just said, or we don't know the long numbers? Or can we bring in technology that will send, can the fire service have a picture that says, this is what is happening in Nigeria today or in the FCT today from a fire perspective? And enforcing what we have existing, as bad as it is or as non-existent as it is, what are we doing for new estates that are springing up, for new plazas that are springing up, for new markets that are being built? What regulations? And if you talk about collaboration with interagency, development control, for instance, can partner with the fire service to say, look, these are the standards we need you to regulate. And from time to time, even if we have a team of 10 people, that their job will be to be going around to enforce these things, I tell you, these numbers will start to claw them back. So we need to start looking at the specifics that we can do, even within the ecosystem that as it exists today, that can give us single digits and not double digits that we're seeing.
Well, let's hope that it will not be all talk. I mean, you have raised it on the floor. Let's hope that from there it will move to some action. Well, we have to thank you, gentlemen, for coming on Hard Copy tonight. Honorable Henry Wamoba and Assistant Controller Timve Jeremiah. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
My pleasure.
That's the program tonight. But don't simply watch and go. Do ask, what safety measures have you put in place in your home, in your office, in the event of a fire? If the response gives you peace, fine. If not, do something urgent about it, because you don't know when the next fire or where it's going to happen. Thank you for watching tonight. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Good night.